So today on the podcast, we had one of the most impactful guests to date, James Rembrandt, the Zillowkiller, came on, talk all things social media, mindset, how he got to where he is and where he's going. I think a lot of people in this world are struggling with putting out content, understanding the nature of paid advertising. They feel like they need to be doing something. So I'll just pay somebody else to do it. Meanwhile, they're not seeing any results. They don't understand the language and they're being taken advantage of. James breaks all of those one at a time. And he's actually inspired me to be healthier and leave this world in a better place than I came. So enjoy the episode. The only thing we ask is hit that subscribe button. If not, the video may stop. YouTube runs out of batteries, I hear, if you don't hit the like button, but we do this for free. I like connecting you with people who are helping drive me to become a better person and grow my business. So enjoy the episode and let me know what you think in the comments and who else you want on as a guest. Welcome to the Prime People Podcast, where we cover all things that got us to where we are today, our team building strategies, the marketing and sales tips that we've learned through thousands of transactions, productivity tips, ways to really just hold yourself accountable to accomplishing what you want to accomplish, and all things content creation, personal development, and not to mention we have some of the best guests on the planet. Oh, snap.
Sorry about that. I had to wrap up on Clubhouse.
All good, man. I'm 2 p.m. sharp, so it's all good. I would have held this as long as we needed to. What were you guys chatting about on Clubhouse?
No, Amanda hit me up and said that people was asking about the boot camp. So she was like, send the link. So I was like, I got like 3 minutes. Let me jump in and give some perspective. But I wasn't
incredible app though to be able to do that, right? Like just paying, jump in, jump out. Like I've never seen something like that.
The internet, man. That's just what the internet is. It was only you know what's funny? Clubhouse feel like it should have been here years ago, right? The way it's the visual and the UDX design has like an older approach, but it's so relevant to today where it took this long for somebody to create something. It's powerful, but very, very rudimental in the sense of audio, picture, profile. That's it.
You know what somebody said to me yesterday on Clubhouse that rang the bell? They're like, this is just a forum. They're like, it's like the old forums we used to be on where you go into a room, there's an interest about it, you drop a comment, but you remember forums back in the day, you ask a question and you're like, you're waiting a week for an answer. Where there, it's like, there's a guy last night, Sean Cannell, runs a huge YouTube channel. I've been a fan of his for years. He's running a room with 22 people in it. So I jump in, and this guy runs like 9 million view YouTube channels, and I just got to talk to him.
With 22 people in his room, right?
Nobody knew, right? Like he's not there yet on Clubhouse. And then I was talking to our boy William about him, and I was like, this is unbelievable. Like the access and the depth of conversation. And Sean's a regular dude. Like why I went in was he was just pouring into people. Like he was giving them long answers. And I'm like, this dude's time is so valuable. And like he fits in with our squad. The same reason, right? Like the people that talk, they're there for the right reasons, right?
What's fascinating too is it's still in its like early stages, right? There's, it really doesn't matter what you've done on anything else. You can kind of chart a whole new path on Clubhouse, where if you're into this influential space, however you view it, right? You can just carve a whole new path where you can build it up and amplify everything else. You don't have to have this big following. You can just start from scratch.
You have a fascinating approach to it too, because the way you explain it to people about the application and just the state of the internet, you really try to shake people loose and say, hey, this isn't just another app. Or if you're trying to figure out how to do it on TikTok or YouTube or whatever platform, you're talking about a skill set, not an application. Stop thinking about the application, start thinking about the skill set, right? I think that's something that I've always thought about, but you tend to say it so eloquently that, where do you think people miss the mark with that part of the conversation?
There's no filters, right? We can't, there's so many people that regurgitate, right? And if I type and regurgitate it, it's subjective, right? It just, oh, wow. But I don't have to say, I got this from Les Brown, right? But there's a different thing. There's difference from people that actually embody it and can really, really, give context to it. And I think a lot of people shy away from that, where you have no filters, you have no mask, you have no text. It has to be your voice, and out of the heart speak of the mouth. Either you know what you're talking about or you don't. I don't care if you got 1 million followers everywhere else, right? If you come on here and you don't have nothing to say, you'll be found out. So I think this is going to be like, this is like the great equalizer, right? For people like me and you, where we have things to say. And, you know, it's funny. When I meet people, it's always interesting. And I've traveled, like you know, for years, past 2 years, association. I'm going out probably 2 times a week, flying in and out of town, meeting with groups of people, 30, 50, 100, whatever it is, right? And I still come across people right now, right? Like how me and you came across, but I came across, you know, numerous people, and they were like, dude, how come I've never heard of you? I'm like, where you live at? Oh, Atlanta. I was just in Atlanta, right? I was just there. So it made those of us that have something to say, it made it more accessible, right? And it made it a little more intuitive. But those that have managed to, I guess, if you want to say, hid behind the features and the mirage, no mirage here. You got to have something
I
to
hear
say.
your pups in the background.
Oh, you hear them?
Titan and Goliath, I can hear them just chilling.
They think that park is, I kid you, they think that park is theirs, yo. Like in my head, all I hear Goliath screaming is, get out my park. So it's nice outside, so it's nothing but people walking by. So you're going to hear that ongoing. And they mainly do it when you have a dog. Like if you walk in, they're cool. You walk with a dog, get out my park.
That's amazing. I think it speaks to who you are too, because your dogs are such a big part of your life and your family, and you share that. And I mean, going back to what you were saying, I find it fascinating that, you know, the great equalizer that is Clubhouse, because we're talking about that topic, is changing things dramatically. I think, you know, this context of this conversation, the reason I wanted to bring you on wasn't for any scripted conversation, never sent you questions, never said this is what we're going to talk about. It's just two friends diving deep into, you know, your mind, because I think I'd love for the people in my world to understand where you're coming from, right? And what you're trying to do in terms of equalizing the battleground for people that are operating small businesses that don't know where to start. They're getting hosed by social media companies that are just coming in and telling them that they know what they're talking about. They have no idea. I see it every day. I see people that, you know, maybe come out of university, watch a couple of YouTube videos, regurgitate what they heard on their YouTube videos, then start charging companies $2,500 a month to manage their social ads account. You know, meanwhile, they're literally burning money, boosting posts, which accomplishes absolutely nothing, but showing them, look at all the leads I got you, and the leads are trash. And we're very similar from the standpoint that I'm the same way. When I meet people, I kind of sit and listen. I engage where I can bring value, but I just like sitting down. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'll try and get around them, and I'll try and absorb information and connect people. I'm the guy that knows a guy that knows a guy. And, you know, I've done it a couple times, even without you knowing, where I mention your name to other people. And I'm like, you need to connect with this dude, because he's deep in that world. But what really blew me away, and what I want to lead the conversation off with, was, you know, there's so many people out there that use these applications, that use Instagram, TikTok, you know, Clubhouse as a funnel to sell people a product. And you're the first person. And I remember when I heard about the boot camp, you mentioned that, you know, you bring people in, you teach them how to weaponize themselves, how to do these ads themselves, or even understand the language. So if they're going to pay somebody, at least they're equipped. But then you said something very important to me. You said that you donate all of the money from the boot camp to children. Mm-hmm. And I've told you so many times in so many rooms, it is probably the most endearing quality I think that you have, was how much you're there to give back, because I don't think people understand the level at which you operate, the ad spend that you manage, the world that you play in, but you're still taking time out of your day to come back and pour into a community of people and give them superpowers so that they don't get taken advantage of, and you're a protector. So can you elaborate on that? Where did the concept of donating that money to the kids come from, or where did this protector mentality come from?
I don't know. I'm family driven. I mean, you see how it is in a boot camp. We create a family environment, and I've experienced what it is when you have all of this inside you, and no one can make sense of it, right? Then you get around somebody that can make sense of it, but when you stop paying them, they go away, right? It's like, oh, as long as I was paying you, it was there, and when you think they're interested, but it's false, right? So I've chosen early in the game, when I got to a place financially, if I can help you, I'll help you. And that's the difference. That's why I'm so dismissive to people that talk money all the time, right? Like, you money, money, money. Yep. I just understand real money don't have to do that. When you're at a place that you can really give back and give, why not, right? So the starting point of just giving it to these kids, it was really just almost like intuitive to do it, right? That was all right. I can donate. I was already donating, so what the heck? I might as well just give this here, right? And all truth, if I really wanted to charge what it costs to be in a boot camp, who would really pay it? I mean, after they see it, yes, but it wasn't about that. I'd rather people get the information. So it was like almost like a duality where I was able to help what I was already doing. And I was able to attract the industry in and help them understand what's possible. Right. So, when I sold real estate, I mean, I can think back on, I tested everything, Justin. I mean, everything. You name it, I've been in everything. And I quickly realized as I got into this space, same stuff, different wrappings. And it was it's the same thing, different wrappings. And nobody was willing to evolve. And there was always a question. My business coach asked me one time, and he was like, what happens when those that are kind of fixed and just set in their ways come across, something that's innovative and flexible? What happens? And he was like, well, I'll tell you what happens. The ones that are fixed and have no flexibility begin to non-exist anymore. And that's when we start to see things evolve, where it's not even an evolution. A lot of stuff is a takeover. Right. So my thing is, when people come in contact with somebody like me, they quickly realize I don't need that anymore. Right. It helps them get a whole different perspective of, do I need to buy into? Do I need to? And it's never about Zillow. I could care less about Zillow. You know that. I don't care less about Zillow. But what our industry has a unique way of doing is romanticizing the nostalgia, and it makes what's possible almost irrelevant. Like we don't even try. Right. If somebody says something about, we say TikTok, I'm not dancing. That's not what you need to be understanding. Right. First understand the internet as a presence, not a destination. And when you hear that, you begin to accept where you fit at in this ecosystem. It's bigger than email. It's bigger than just a quick text, right? Just when and this is why when we stress like things like the manifesto, right? When I say the manifesto, and we use this even in the business. If you look on our website, you'll see it there. Where we talk about the manifesto of the internet is all about resonating, omnipresence, and intimacy. And why that's so powerful is when you tap into that can be almost like a gift and a curse at the same time, because those that don't have our industry heart and mind, they utilize it. They do it right now. Like the number one coach in the nation never sold real estate, right? But they're real estate. You see what I'm saying with that, right? So, but for us that can adjust and understand, wow, we have that same ability, we have that same access, that same power. It's just put it in perspective to help people understand you have the exact same awareness that these other software companies, you can go down a list, whatever they're doing, you can do yourself. But the unfair part about it is no one won't stress. It's not hard. It's just uncomfortable. And it's worth at least being aware of that. If you do hire it out, let's hire out of convenience, because our leaders in the industry haven't taken that behavior shift yet to help us understand, dude, when you got your license, you've just gained access to building a business. I know you want to make money, and you'll make money, but you've just gained access to building a business. And when you look at that in depth, you have to help people understand your business should not die with you. That's not a business. Your business has to outlive you. And it's fascinating. People won't say that, and they just feel as though, well, I'm just selling real estate. Yes, that's the product. I get it. But the ability to we sell a highest priced product on the planet within 2 weeks of education. What other industry can give you that type of, just to do my nails is $1,600, like $1,600, right? To get your nails done for the females, males do, whoever gets it, $1,600, right? 2 weeks with professionals. How do we, and we've just taken this for granted. And it's just, it drives a hole in my head that our leaders won't take the time to say that. Our leaders won't take time to give us awareness of what access we have. They won't take the time to dig deep and learn what the internet can do. They don't have to be a professional, but they need to be aware of what it is. Because if we, if those that are paying attention can see what you've seen, a dude can go and watch a YouTube video and then turn around and say, hey, give me $2,000 now, I'll do whatever for you. It just validates that all of this stuff is learnable. And as long as we don't view ourselves less intelligent, stop holding on to that narrative that I'm not tech savvy. You can't keep saying that, right? Because everything we do requires tech, MLS, tech, contracts, tech, right? As long as we hold that narrative and find those things that are uncomfortable, unobtainable, right? That's the biggest problem. But our leaders won't say that because they don't know. They have no clue.
Even the people at the top don't really understand, right? Because I feel like they're very disconnected. I think one of the best advantages that I've always tried to maintain was being in the field, in battle with my people, so that I can lead and protect them. And I'm not always doing it, but I'm in a position where I can try and think 10 steps ahead as to what the world is doing and what the industry is doing and how to lead them. I think, again, you touched on a topic that's so important. And one of our favorite people on the planet is in the audience. Sherry is on this live podcast.
What's up, Sherry?
This is a great example of somebody where, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. The technology is too much. I can't do this. I mean, 15 minutes into the boot camp that we did, she put that out there, and good on her to actually say that. And what happened when you got a group of people together that were there to really look out for each other and really build a community? You want to expand on that?
Oh yeah. I mean, she was the light of the party by Wednesday, right? And it's just an amazing, it's an amazing thing to, when people accept the uncomfortable, right? Or they accept things aren't going to be easy and understand that I'm growing, right? If that's just part of growth, right? At least if we accept the uncomfortable, we'll be more willing to see what's possible. And I like the fact that she didn't give up, but that vulnerability side, right? We have a lot of people in the industry that BS their way all the time. So it's impossible for them to grow because it's like, I'm doing this. And like, it goes back to what I say, people that always pump their chest, and it's okay. I'm not knocking you for bragging. Listen, pop your collar if you want to, right? But if everything you talk about, I say, how you doing? And the next thing is, I just closed like 5 deals. Dude, who are you trying to convince? Me or you, right? If everything has that type of tonality to it, it's evident that they haven't gotten to the place where they're honest with themselves. And I like the fact that Sherry was very honest about, hey, listen, this is just over my head, right? There was one other person, right? She didn't tell me until after. And of course she did the whole goofy with me. It was like, listen, I'll donate $50 to the kids, but I didn't give them kids all their money. I give you what a charity is and ask them for that, the investment back. But her mind was so limited in thinking, all she had to say was, James, this is moving too fast for me. And I think from day one, I gave that perspective. You just need to tell me, right? Things are moving too fast. I'm lost. It's over my head. Just say something. And it requires us to be vulnerable to build an effective business. It requires us to be aware of, listen, this is just too much right now. I need help. And we won't do that. And what made Sherry so special was she was really honest about it. But every day you see her progressing. And then Wednesday came, she was like, I don't get it all, but I understand why I need to be here and how important it is. And she on Clubhouse, she set up her videos. It was a lot of cool things to see possible. But again, our industry don't nurture this type of behavior. We won't tell people, you listen, to get help, you need to be vulnerable and ask for help. We're so consumed with trying to get these awards and it's like I call it a Neapolitan complex. Like, we're so busy trying to, I just closed like 8 deals and 7 deals, and we're big on that, but we're not big on like.
What does that mean to the consumer though? Honestly, I'll stop on that point because we don't do it. Like who cares if you did 1,000?
It's a disservice. Yeah. It's a major disservice. It's a major disservice for the consumer. It's a major disservice for your family. It's a major disservice for anything in a sense of what's possible for you, right? We have permissive and divine will, and we are given the opportunity to make these choices, but there are certain things that are divine, and if we're willing to tap into, sky is the limit. And I'm very aware of that. I'm very aware that there's certain principles and laws, and it doesn't matter what you believe in. Jesus, Buddha, Allah, Smurf, Berry's your choice, right? There's just certain things that exist that we need to be aware of. And the minute you're not willing to be vulnerable and to yourself, and I'm not talking about like just where people is like, well, it's too hard for me. I hear that. I get that, right? but are you willing to at least be vulnerable enough to listen and learn and stick it out, right? Are you willing to do that? And there's so many people that won't, and that's why these software companies have an easy in for us, very easy
Well,
in.
we're looking for the easy button. I think that's the problem, right? Is people, well, if I'm paying somebody, then I'm doing something. Oh, I got 1,000 leads. I got nothing to do with it. It is the issue. Now, with that though, I do have a question for you. I've never asked you before. And it comes down to, from a vulnerability perspective, you know, when you're going through something and it's not going right and you're having a challenge and you're having that vulnerability, I love that, because to me, it means you're doing something of significance, right?
Mhm.
Any type of tension means you're creating something. What point in your life did you have any tension or anything where you realized that, man, like you were having a hard time or you were in Sherry's shoes, and then what helped you break through that?
When I came from Harlem and came down to South Jersey, keep in mind Harlem is a predominantly Black community, you know, and there's always stigmas when you move from a predominantly Black community to a very multicultural community, and it wasn't even multicultural. Like if you took a bowl of salt and sprinkled some pepper, that's how the Black people would spread around it. Like it was far and few, right? And that intimidation on top of being a male, it was hard to process of how could I succeed. And but I got to a place where I had to make a decision, right? Either I'm going to do something or I need to get a job. And getting a job was way more painful than just doing these videos and putting myself out there and seeing if the market would accept me. But remember, I told you my first focus was the Black community, right? And come to find out, I put myself out there. There was over 30,000 women. I say 30,000 white women that love what I was doing in the sense of content. And what was unique about that, Justin, was it wasn't just their ethnicity, it was their structure. They were moms, right? And for whatever reason, they didn't see me to be intimidating. They seen, they kind of treated me like their son. It's like, yeah, this guy can help. And people always think I'm younger than what I am. So it's cool. I let that ride. And it evolved from there. But the biggest side was the pain of getting a job was louder than at least trying. I had to make it. I had to make this work because I had no other options. Right. I had no. Or had already relocated from New York down here. I had no other options. Either I made it work or I had to get a job, and that was way more painful just to think of. That was excruciating to think. And keep in mind, I'm a recovering introvert. I'm terrified of the cameras, talking out loud. I had this thing where I felt as though I was less of in a community, that I was kind of like the minority. I had a lot of things rattling in my head where I had to kind of overcome. But that I guess you want to say that apex of what I need to get done was louder. And then when I thought about the possibilities of failing, that was terrifying. Like, no way I can get a job. I remember I had a job, right? I had a security job for like 3 days. And when they took my chair from me, I was done. It was like, you guys stand up. I quit on the spot. It's done. I walked out. He stood up. I stood up and walked off on the spot. So I knew that I wasn't built for that. And, I've always had my own thing going on. Even when I relocated down here, I had an agency, which I started out in design, fashion design. I did a lot of stuff up there. But to know I had to, the options of either this works or you have to get a job was terrifying to me. So it wasn't just being vulnerable, the determination that I had to win. And then I had kids. I have 4 kids, right? I have 4 kids and a wife. I can remember, while I was trying to make sense of all this, my wife had got a job at Macy's, and it wasn't good at all, right? We got to the point where we were in a 2-bedroom apartment, 6 of us, right? I had to make this work. It had no choice, and you know, my first year was so bad. It was to a point where it didn't make any sense. And I remember, scraping up what I could, and I hired my first coach, and it was money I didn't have. I didn't have the money for that, but I knew it was something I was missing. So I was willing to at least learn or pull from power. And when I understood the paradigm that it's not It wasn't about my skills. It was about obscurity. Now I know what the problem is. I have to put myself out there. I have to be vulnerable. I have to put myself out there. And knowing that I just need to make it louder, I just didn't want to give up. And just, again, the option of this work or you get a job, it's terrifying to me, man.
I mean, let's unbox some of that. You opened up in a big way to the audience and walked through the journey of somebody coming in with a self-defeating narrative to the point where you thought, there were preconceived notions, which, there may have been, but they almost become a fixture or a focus to the point where you decided that you were going to take control of your destiny. You said, this is who my consumer is going to be. You put out your content, and then you realized very quickly your consumer was completely different than what you thought, which, that's something I want to dig in on. If we're going to give anybody value in this episode, if they are producing content, and we'll get to that in a second, how do you think about listening to your audience? Because it's something that, as I go down this wormhole and I educate myself, and, I'm putting in my 10,000 hours on the content production side, I'm seeing the masters at it listen more than they talk. They don't show up and say, my viewers are all luxury home buyers. They're this, they're that. They're listening and realizing, like, I had no idea that this demographic is watching my content. Like, at what point did that switch in your head and you realized, okay, it's actually these ladies that are paying more attention to me than not, and start gearing your content towards that audience?
Well, I'll tell you this, I never changed up my content structure. I just did more of it, right? And I honestly was getting people reaching out, and they would say, I got your information from the Moms Club. And I'm like, it was business. I didn't trip out. But after about 15 or 16 or so, I'm like, this gotta be something. And I asked them, and she was like, yeah, it's a group of Cherry Hill East and Cherry Hill West of over 30,000 women. We love your videos. So it was clear me being myself worked. And that's what I started to do. The key thing was I would do videos, Justin, and they were to give me perspective of the area because I was learning it. But I had to get used, and this is why I say this to everybody, I had to get used to hearing and seeing myself. So I would literally have conversations with myself on video. Like I would be talking to myself as if I'm talking to the person on video. So it made it a little bit more natural. And I would talk about things that I knew about, where, things that I could identify with my education in the sense of, red doors, architecture, clean lines. I'm minored in fine art. So clean lines were always important. So if a tree line lined up correctly on a block, that was fascinating to me. The aesthetics of certain properties, I don't know. I had this thing for red and yellow doors. Every time I see a red and yellow door, I would point it out and try and, make some sense of it. If I went through a house that I thought was unique, whether it was a French colonial, whatever it was, I would give perspective on it. But I was doing that to get myself out of the fear of doing videos. I had to get used to hearing myself. And it was more intuitive than like I learned this, right? It was something I knew I had to do, and I had no clue how to do videos. So what's the best way to get a video out? Talk to myself, right? And I put them out there, and I put it out there cringing because I knew what I was doing, but I knew I had to do something. I had to get it out there because if it was obscurity, the best way to know me is for me to tell you who I am, and that's the conversation I kept going with, and I just started to do more.
These videos, where were you putting them? Like, what were you shooting them on, and what platform?
Oh, my phone and Facebook, right on my phone and Facebook. I was I still, yeah, we would put them in Facebook. That's how I used to do my focus for my business was Facebook and open houses. I did an open house every week. I did open house every week for about a year and a half. And keep in mind, going into year 3, business picked up. I did about 10 million in sales year 3. Going into about year 2, I did 10 million sales. Year 3, I did 13 million sales. But going into year 2, going into year 3, in that transition of the year, I was closing about 3 or 4 deals a week, and I still did my open house. So I had a high level of discipline already. Like that was part of who I was already, right? Like I was very disciplined. I was very focused. Even though I was scared, but I was very focused, and I just understood it. It had to work. Like they cannot stay in the situation that we're in. And that, with my family may have been a driver, but I didn't learn till years later what my why was, of why I had that much, I guess, grit to get it done. And now I get it, right? And again, I shared with you guys before, it was an embarrassing thing overall, because statistically that made sense to a lot of people. A Black person not having, just barely making, that was statistically correct for a lot of people. And I couldn't stomach that. And I learned years ago, a lot of things that I do is for the Black community, because I need to be, at least if you can see it, it's obtainable. You can't be what you can't see. So I need to help people understand, not just for the Black community, but predominantly for those that are trying to be something better, be something more. My first coach didn't look like me, but I see myself in him. So I try to be that for everybody. But as I started to progress, you guys know, I shared, I do a lot of stuff in the Black community, and I hated the fact that statistically that shit made sense. Like it broke my heart to know, if I was to say to somebody, nobody would question this, but this ain't right. This ain't normal. This is not okay. So my drive, now I understood what it was in the sense of my why, but my drive was, it just drove me crazy to know that the world is okay with this, but this isn't normal. People shouldn't have to be okay with this type of narrative. And, even though doing videos was uncomfortable and putting myself out there was uncomfortable, did it ever really get easier? No, but I knew it had to get done. So I always had heavy discipline, in a sense of, if we were working out, he was like, yo, we need 50 reps. Get 50 reps. Just what it is, right? So I've always had that, but it had to get pulled out of me.
I mean, you knocked it out of the park, right? Like, you don't know this, but through our friendship, you make me dial in my diet a little bit more, wake up a little bit earlier, hit those extra reps. I'm in my basement working out by myself, but the impact that you have in the community around you, it's that butterfly effect, right? And you talk about changing the situations in the world that frustrate you versus just talking about it. I mean, you're a samurai, right? You're just kind of just doing it, and quietly, consistently, over and over, maybe not so quietly anymore with, the amount of attention that you're getting on Clubhouse and on your platforms and everywhere else. But again, you've never lost who you are. And I kind of asked that leading question on purpose, because I think a lot of people in the audience look at these platforms and content creation and think, I need to become this person because that's who my audience is going to be. I laid that up on purpose because I knew exactly how you'd answer it, because I know you and your character, right? I think what I got from that was, and this, but I don't know if you've been told this directly, your role in this world as a protector and a guider. I've joked that you're Obi-Wan Kenobi in some rooms. Like, it's that guy that's there just going out and doing the work and finding the information and imparting it in the people that feel they're not deserving of it. I think that's my favorite thing about you. And again, Sherry's a great example of that. UA's, I'm seeing other people that are in this, right, where you have an impact on them over and beyond you being here today. And I think that is something that is inspiring for me personally. I think everybody that is built like us, to leave a legacy over and beyond just building a business, right? And you've talked about this before, but I want you to talk about it today, because I want this to live forever on our YouTube channel, so it impacts thousands of people, hopefully, if not millions, down the road. And what is your mindset on creating something that is going to outlive you? Because we can all make money, but it doesn't really matter, because we're all going to end up dead at one point anyways, right?
Well, I'm legacy always focused. One of the focus just for my family's generational wealth. And there's a reason why, but I know what it feels like, and I know what it is when I'm trying to do something and all of these ideas and concepts and ambition is rattling in your head, and you don't have anybody that's willing to at least listen, right? That's why we do the boot camp so cost effective. Money should not be the reason why you can't come to the boot camp, because there's people like, listen, just come hang out. plenty of them, you know what I mean? So it's never about the money, but it's always about trying leaving something behind that's bigger than who you are. I understand that there are certain ways that will be viewed, right? And I don't know what people believe in. I just believe that there's an afterlife. I'm terrified of reincarnation because you just never know what you'll come back as. There's some scary shit. You come back as a tree or something, right? You done live this amazing life and you come back as a lily or something crazy like that. But I just believe that there's an afterlife, and in that afterlife, there will be where God says to you, "This is who you became, but this is who I had you to be." And it's two different people. That's terrifying to know that we can miss an amazing life by not putting ourselves out there. So I've chosen to be the greatest version of myself every day. Is it easy? No. Is it complicated? Yes. Sometimes I want to give up. Yeah. Right. But I know that there are people that need me, right? And there are people that I need as well. So I give without any type of expectation, right? I give because one, I understand the law of reciprocity. It'll do its job regardless. But I know that there are a lot of people that won't be vulnerable enough to say, listen, I need help. So at least if I can be an example, and maybe it takes me to give more or to do more, if I can help that person, even just by osmosis, that's my focus. So, like I told you, my goal is to die empty. Like ain't nothing gonna be left of me when I get out of here. It'll be done because I give everything. And, people, some people ask like, dude, how do you do so much? My work ethic is biblical. That's the best way to explain it, right? I go and I try not to put how I feel in front of me because I focus on what I know. And if I can move on what I know, I can do a lot more. If I embody how I feel, my emotions will always betray me. So I have to keep in front of me of what I know, and that's how I keep moving. But my goal, I tell everybody, Justin, my goal is to kick a dent in this planet. You will miss me when I'm gone. I'm not going to just fade away. I'm going to be missed when I'm gone. But I do everything I can every day I wake up.
You're gonna kick a dent in the planet. You have the best one-liners I've ever heard in my life. You need to put the quotations one day. We're gonna get into the last 10 minutes of the episode, and we're gonna really give them the goods in terms of equipping them, right? Because you give so much value, and I know the questions to ask to draw some of the best information out of you and give people an understanding of what it is we're talking about here. But that comment, I mean, just I want people to sit on that for a second and understand what you just said, right? There's a phenomenal song by Zach Williams called Fear is a Liar. And your emotions are a liar, and you feel a certain way, and you're tired, you're impatient with your wife and your kid and everything else. But we spoke about this the other day. I was reading in the War of Art about a gentleman that dealt with terminal cancer patients. And he said, no matter what they're doing in their life, the second they find out that they have a terminal illness, they all have the exact same reaction. And they wish that they flew across the country for that graduation, or they were a little bit more patient with their child or their wife or something else, right? So you just keep spreading that positivity. But let's dig right into the actual tactical side of things. So you don't know me. I'm a real estate agent. I know nothing about social media production or anything that I do know. And I'm just coming over to you and saying, James, I'm so busy. I know I got to be doing social media. I have no idea how to do it. All these people are on Instagram. They have sold photos, and I feel like they're doing something and I'm not. Where do I get started? Should I just pay somebody to handle my social media so I can keep selling? What are
No,
you telling me?
absolutely not. The very first thing we try and find out is what channels they have, and then we figure out what channels is they put some type of effort towards, and we start with one, right? But the essential side of it is they have to do videos. It's mandatory. It is non-negotiable, because if you won't do a video, you won't do videos. There's no way I can really help you, right? And until they can accept that, everything else is just a waste. And of course, I can show them the numbers when they start to say, "Well, I just want to generate leads." You don't need me for that. Right? You can go hire anybody to help you generate leads. So the first thing we try and get people to do is a welcome video. A welcome video is, who are you? What do you do? What area you service? Why do you sell? Right? Give me some context. And you'd be amazed at the people that have never thought about that, right? They never thought about, like, why am I selling real estate anyway? Why am I selling here anyway? Right? And then there are those that have, and that's just to get people in the awareness of what they look like and what they sound like. The faster you can get over that, the quicker we can move into tactical stuff. Now that we got you doing videos, now let's become tacticians, and now let's be more strategic about where we're positioning stuff. So if you think Facebook, think Instagram, right? If you think YouTube, think Facebook, right? Because it migrates over. And if you do YouTube, you can go from YouTube, Facebook, and then you can go to Instagram. So there's a trifecta when you understand just how content is consumed, and the reason why YouTube is a good starting point if you're going to do it. But if you're not, just go to Facebook and then migrate to Instagram, because YouTube has a higher intent. It's all search based, right? Everything on YouTube is search based. They're not going on YouTube because they just was scrolling, right? They actually searched something. You became in a echo chamber, or either in there searching, right? And your stuff is now propagating. With Facebook, that's more of an interruption. Instagram, interruption. LinkedIn, interruption, right? When you understand interruption requires entertainment. Entertainment is a little bit different because it requires things like pattern interrupts, and then you educate. If I'm just on YouTube, I can go straight into the education based off of a solution. I'm building stuff based off of problems, right? Solution based. So once we've gotten you there, and if depending on where you are, right, that this is the best way for us to understand where to position the content. The consistency of the content is what's gonna make the difference, right? Where right now I'm trying to tell people, let's forget all that. Let's focus on short form, because that's easier for you, and it's an art to short form, right? Where vertical based under a minute videos is the way of the future right now, because everything is beginning to migrate over into that space where we go from Musically into TikTok. TikTok has validated it works. Instagram has embedded IG Reels. YouTube has in public beta YouTube Shorts, and there are other things that are coming into place. That same behavior happened when Snapchat came out and they started to do ephemeral based content, and we didn't understand what ephemeral was. It was like, oh, this is 24 hours and I'm not going to listen to it. And we dismissed it and didn't even pay attention to the features that was given. And it validated that type of content is consumable. Now, every platform offers stories. Every last one of them. They don't even need it. Offers some type of story component, and it's all there, right? And the exact same behavior is happening with short form content right now, right in front of us. And we're not, as long as we're paying attention, we can see it, right? But if you're willing to learn the art of short form, that can be the gateway to anything else you want to do, because it doesn't take long to get out a minute video. There is a process, but to get a quick minute video out, a 30-second video, you can pump a dozen of those out if you dedicate maybe 2 hours to just getting it done, right? And then you'll start to notice your conversations need more, right? I'm having trouble hearing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
I'll watch.
I was gonna say on that note, I mean, literally a conversation I had an agent with today, or I had a conversation with an agent today. She had a realtor.ca lead, wanted to see a house. And I'm like, are they under buyer rep? Like, do you know if they're working with an agent? And she said, well, I don't know. And I said, well, make sure you have that buyer rep sign. And we got into an in-depth conversation about it. And I'm like, you're going to spend 2 hours of your time going and showing this property with an unqualified buyer. That 2 hours would be better sitting down, banging out some videos and working on your actual business and having something that's going to have an everlasting, evergreen impact on your business in the long run than chasing a lead that statistically less than 3% of really convert to buyers unless you're doing the proper qualifications, right? We like people just chase bright, shiny objects when the gold is literally sitting right in front of them.
That's the old, but it's an old narrative. That's what they know, right? You know, that's why people are like, I need a lead. Why don't we chase conversations? Well, what is that? But if I went and Target and someone says real estate, we're quick to, oh, you're thinking about real estate? Well, let me tell you, right? We'll do that there. But we won't do something like that on video where we can go from 1-to-1 in Target to 1-to-many by what you just pointed out, in a sense of, why don't I show you what this property is, give you context to it. Now that person has some perspective, and when they want to see it, the rapport is built, the intimacy is tapped into, and they may be more likely to they may not buy that house, but they may be more likely to do business with you because they had time to really hear your heart and hear who you are as a person. And it's just a different approach, and video is dynamic, you guys. It's not, I don't want you guys to think of, well, I did the video and that's it. That's your conversation ongoing over. It's just repetitive. You just don't have to do it.
I mean, you're opening up a world that people need to know about. I think really going down that wormhole and understanding that content production doesn't have to be fancy. You don't need a production team. It literally starts with this. You did it with your phone, posting them on Facebook. You know, you don't have to be precious about it, and you will attract the right people. I think that's so critical. There's one point that before I get you out of here, and I got a heart out at 2:45 for you, so I want to respect your time. What do you think is the reason people get stuck on, I'm not going on TikTok, I'm not going on Clubhouse, and not understanding that all of these apps, regardless of what they are, our good friend Giselle says this all the time, they're interchangeable. It's the skill set they should be focused on. Like, what would you take somebody to shake them and say, stop focusing on the platform? You know, your ego is not tied to whether or not you're on this application. Can you break that narrative for me before you leave?
Yeah. Again, it goes back to helping. This is why I say it, and it doesn't register. A lot of times it doesn't register to people until it happens, right? And it's very, very important that everyone understands that the ideology or understanding that the internet is a presence, not a destination. The quicker you can accept that, the quicker when you see new software, new things of communication, right? Forget about social media. View this as distribution or communication. The faster you can adapt that these are distribution and communication components. Yes, they have their culture, but you have to understand that the internet is a presence. It's not a destination. And it sucks that you got to go through a dead zone, or Wi-Fi is not working for you to realize it ain't a whole lot you could do without the internet. It's not an industry thing. It's the world. This is how the world is communicating. Can you imagine? Just think about this, you guys. Just imagine if we had to go through this pandemic and there was no internet. You understand how boring it would be? Like what would we do? Like, we would be outside spreading this virus, as you know, it's like how bad would it have gotten if we had no way of communicating and connecting with each other in real time, right? That's the amazing part about what these platforms offer. So it's really, really helping them break that narrative of, well, I'm going to go online. You're always online, Ma. You're never offline. And, you know, sometimes you see people have the freak out moment of privacy. I'll let them have that. I'll let you have that, but you have to accept what the internet is. And the internet is where we are. It's the world we live in. It has nothing to do with the industry. And if we follow the way the world is communicating and consuming information, the faster we'll be willing to accept. Where if you hear TikTok, you see that it's not the dancing and singing, whatever you see. It is the short form, vertical based content, because it's being adapted all across the internet as a whole, everywhere, right? And it's just and it's simple as following. It's fascinating. We're on these platforms, and I've heard people say, well, if you're going to use these platforms, you should buy stocks. I get you on that. If you're going to be on a platform, use the platform. But I'd rather you guys see them as distribution and communication. You can entertain yourself, but as long as we're business owners, entrepreneurs, I want you guys to view it as communication and distribution, regardless of what it is. Forget about Facebook, forget about the titles. Just understand that if you're going to be on Facebook, it is a distribution and communication. Instagram, distribution and communication. Wherever you go with it, but you have to be willing to do video. And that's it's just the hard truth right there. I would love to people. What else can I do? You can do a lot of other things, but what are people going to consume? Right? That's the real question. How am I able to get my message out? Like, if you can't tell me, where we communicate texting and phone calls, right? That was so intuitive, right? But if I say communicate or connect with somebody, you know, we're thinking telephone and texting. We have an even deeper way to connect with people when we're willing to do video one, and we're willing to choose one of these channels to distribute our information out to them.
It's all about intent. I think that's the one thing I want to just take away from this, and make sure everybody's paying attention to intent with your life, intent with taking control of the situation, and, you know, making decisions to become the man that you are. You're definitely a dude that I respect a lot. You've had an impact on me. Definitely had an impact on other people. Sherry wrote in the comments, James, you made a dent on me in more ways. And you know, your God presence is so present, and I miss you already. Many thanks for such a positive soul in my life. Christina Cook, who is in radio and TV, actually says she appreciates this sort of long-term social media strategy. And if there's anything that I can say, my friend, is I know that this is only the beginning. I'll be seeing you in NYC at some point in time, and we'll be connecting in real life once all this craziness is over.
Well, you got me on the hip, so whenever you need me, I'll be there.
Your family. I do want to give you my platform though, and if you're going to leave a billboard out there for everybody to see in perpetuity long after you're gone, what would that billboard say?
I just want everybody to try and be the greatest version of themselves every day. Right? It's not going to be easy, but if we can try, at least the one thing we can control is the attempt every time. And there's a lot of things we can't control, but the attempt to be better, to be more, we can definitely control that. And I just rather you guys to make that choice to be more, be better.
So I'm going to do the creative for you. I'm going to have the production team come down. We're going to have Titan howling at the park saying, I'm leaving this world empty, with that as the end. I'm in. All right. I appreciate you, brother.